Over 411,000 players just competed in the first Pokemon Global Challenge for Pokemon Champions, and on top of all the top tiers like Sneasler, Mega Charizard, Incineroar, and others, stood one amazing Pokemon. Ariados? What? The historically low-tier, terrible, run-of-the-mill early route bug Pokemon Ariados won this? Yeah, we gotta talk about it. In this video, we will talk about the tournament Ariados won, the player whose team-building genius brought out Ariados' maximum potential, and of course, what we can learn from all of this. This is the story of Federico Camporesi's Ariados, and to understand how everything built up to Ariados' win, we first must understand the format itself. For those uninitiated, Pokemon Champions uses the official format known as VGC, which is a doubles format where you have a team of 6 but bring 4 to a battle. Pokemon Champions not only has a limited pool of Pokemon, with it being the first season and literally only a month old at the time of this video, but also a limited pool of items. No choice items besides Scarf, no Covert Cloak, not even Assault Vest. The Global Challenge is a ladder-style tournament where players compete for 3 days with a limit of 15 games per day. Depending on how many points at the end of the 3 days you have, you will be placed in a ranking. Remember this because this will be important for later. The format is also best of 1, meaning if you get caught off guard by something, well, then you're just SOL. It is here where Federico, or FEDE for short, decided to create his diabolical strategy, but it didn't actually start with Ariados. It actually started with the other 5 Pokemon. The most important part of Pokemon battling is arguably not the battle itself, as the preparation before a major tournament is crucial and constantly determines the results beforehand. Frequently, top players look at a metagame and try to understand the logic behind some of the most popular Pokemon combinations, subsequently electing a strategy outfitted to beat expected matchups or take an already established strategy and making it their own. FEDE's journey starts from not a place of love for Ariados as players suspect, but from his desire to adapt the age-old Fire Fairy combination. In fact, we reached out to FEDE, and in his own words, this is why he elected that choice. Which, speaking of, thank you to FEDE for allowing us to interview him for his insight. He's a great player and you should check out his channels, which are in the description below.
Historically, Fire and Fairy has been like probably even the strongest combination of typings ever. Like they cover each other perfectly, and it's very strong to have them together on an offensive team. And stuff like Chi-Yu and Fluttermane, Primal Groudon and Xerneas, Incineroar, and any fairy type has historically been extremely strong.
FEDE elected to try out the combination of Zardwai and Sylveon out of curiosity. This team had a powerful offensive spread move combination that was capable of dishing out ludicrous amounts of damage, while giving FEDE a choice of a complementary Mega Evolution to Mega Charizard Y. In a limited metagame such as the current Champions landscape, the lack of useful items often means that a double Mega Stone is more often than not a requirement for success. FEDE's choice of Sylveon as opposed to Mega Floette allowed FEDE to open up a spot for one of Charizard Y's ultimate partners in crime, Mega Aerodactyl. Mega Aerodactyl's speed and ability to set up Tailwind often meant that FEDE would have an edge with the offensive advantage that both Mega Flying types could bring into the mix. After that, FEDE's team choices were centered around complementing the main core of the team.
I put Garchomp, which is just a perfect partner for both Mega Aerodactyl and Mega Charizard Y, and I picked up Sash Basculegion as my last choice because I feel like Basculegion in general is probably the strongest non-Mega Pokemon in the format. And I really like the Focus Sash set with Tailwind, but in general, I feel like whatever team you're running, there will almost always be room for Basculegion, and some set of Basculegion will be able to fit inside your team.
So good stuff, great results, right? But there were a couple of problems with bringing Sylveon over the much more popular, bulkier, and faster Mega Floette. Speed was obviously a factor when comparing the much slower Sylveon to the Ruinous Flower, but both Pokemon in fact share a natural predator. The most popular Pokemon in the format right now, just kidding, it's Sneasler now. Sneasler's ability to deal tremendous amounts of poison damage with Dire Claw while simultaneously dishing out status with its secondary effect made FEDE take a look at a possible redirection.
There is not a very high amount of Pokemon that can redirect attacks with either Rage Powder or Follow Me in Pokemon Champions. Looking at the mons that learn Follow Me, I'm also looking at the list right now just to help myself, but we got only Meowsol and Clefable, and both are terrible for Sylveon because basically Clefable will just be repeating the Fairy type, so it's not really useful to defend a Pokemon with a Director that has the same exact weaknesses as what you're trying to defend. And the same thing applies to Meowsol, which is basically weak to close combat. So every Pokemon that learns Follow Me in the format, it's weak to Sneasler in some way. So this was my main concern about it. And about Rage Powder, we got Volcarona, Scovillain, Sinistcha, Vivillon, and the god Ariados. And basically, Ariados is the only Pokemon that learns Rage Powder and basically resists both Dire Claw and Close Combat. It resists Fight type 4 times, it resists Dire Claw 2 times, and all the other Redirectors will be weak to Dire Claw or at best, just neutral damage.
And yes, we know what you're thinking. Why not just pick Sinistcha over Ariados, since Sinistcha redirects as well and takes similar damage from Dire Claw? We thought about that too, and FEDE's answer surprised us.
But the thing is that Ariados is also immune to most of the RNG that Dire Claw can't get, because Sinistcha can both get poisoned and slept from Dire Claw, while Ariados is a poison type with the Insomnia ability, so Ariados is immune to both poison and sleep. And that was extremely clutch and consistent against Nizzler. Because the only way that Nizzler could X you, it's paralyzing you.
Standing on the shoulders of giants, Ariados rode proudly, echoing the memories of Pachirisu many years prior, a perfect answer to a common problem, a niche that only itself could fulfill. But that wasn't all. Ariados answered not one, but two of the scariest Pokemon in the metagame, as it possessed the mighty Knockoff.
And one other thing that it does in the rain matchup is pressing Knockoff, which I have chosen to be my only attacking move. Knockoff into Basque Legion is extremely valuable. It does around 40-50% damage, which is still a decent damage, and it removes the item, and basically it's always worth it. Whatever item the Basque Legion is running, Rain Team's Basque Legion are always either Mystic Water or Choice Scarf. So removing the item to the Basque Legion is something always extremely valuable. And a thing that has always helped a lot is that people seeing my Sylveon Ariados lead will pretty much always attack my Sylveon, not knowing Ariados could even do something to the Basque Legion.
Ariados beat Sneasler's game plan clearly and also severely vibe-checked Basque Legion, luring it into a false sense of safety, much like Spider do to their prey in the real world. Ariados even had one last trick up its sleeve, String Shot. Channeling the power of Bugcatcher Rick from the Viridian Forest, String Shot served as a secondary form of speed control that enabled Sylveon to press its stab Hyper Voice freely while controlling the opposition. String Shot particularly was better than Ariados' signature move Toxic Thread because it is a spread move, which, to be honest, I also did not know, because why would I ever use String Shot? But hey, sometimes the answers are in the beginning of our paths as trainers, and FEDE's ability to look for solutions rewarded him with a victory on the largest stage in Pokemon history. But how did this strategy actually do at the tournament? The journey of every Spider hero always starts the same. You acquire your Spider powers, and then Uncle Ben has to die. In this case, Uncle Ben was Federico's first match, where he lost to some poor decisions. With great power must come great responsibility, and so FEDE cleaned up his act and started shooting webs at everything and everyone that came across his team. FEDE started winning, and he won a lot. Like a lot. Thus resulting in his day 1 record going 14-1. But day 2 proved to be a different experience for FEDE, as he not only competed in the global challenge, but also entered another tournament with a significant prize simultaneously. Juggling 2 events is extremely mentally taxing, but to our friendly neighborhood Ariados user, this wasn't an impediment. But then the incident happened. Even if you are the very best, you can always fall prey to RNG in a game like Pokemon. And so at 21 wins and 2 losses, FEDE's generational win streak was put to an end. So how did FEDE react to such an upset when being so close?
And during these games, I went from 14-1 to 21-1. I lost a game to extremely heavy RNG, which made me go 21-2. And after losing that game, I just decided, okay, let's stop here. And on Sunday, I was playing the day 2 of that other tournament, but day 2 lasted much less than day 1. So my plan was just to hand the day 2 of the tournament, which also ended in top 8. So even the tournament went pretty well.
And thus FEDE took a break when the signs to stop were there, which is a powerful piece of advice to those of us that start doom queuing under the pretense of just one more win and just one more for real. Truly the mettle of a champion. Although the first couple of days of the event had some hiccups for FEDE, they were mostly a free ride, as he put it in the interview that we had to prepare for this video. But day 3 of the event was a whole different beast. As players progress throughout the tournament, they start encountering similarly rated opponents in the online ladder, thus making day 3 of the event by far the most complicated at a high level. This, however, didn't seem to faze FEDE, as he was taking advantage of his ideal matchup into popular teams, even against the best players, and leveraging knowledge checks that decided several matches. FEDE kept winning over and over, and he eventually reached a 31-2 record, a 94% win-loss record. Absolute efficiency. But even the most efficient and smart Pokemon champions, pun intended, eventually find a rival to match them. At this rate, FEDE was bound to fight exclusively tough opponents, as he suddenly ran into the eventual second place finisher Daniel Thorpe. FEDE brought his all against Daniel, but sadly it wasn't enough, and from here things got quite difficult. FEDE began losing a decent amount of matches despite them being close battles. Now remember, this is a ladder tournament, so every loss makes the win rate go down significantly. And as if things weren't hard enough, with his current record now being 32 wins to 2 losses, FEDE ran into brandishing his signature Parashong strategy with a dash of genius added to it with an extra Halucha plus Fisher Snorlax shell to top things off. The world champ difference made its mark. In an extremely grueling match, the 2016 world champion Wolf Glick managed to beat FEDE in an all-out rager of a battle.
Wolf beat me with Perish. It was extremely close, but I didn't call some key turns well, as well as getting a little unlucky with some damage rolls. So I lost to Wolf, and then after losing to him, I ended up having 1 hour and 30 minutes searching a match without finding anyone. So I was desperate at this point.
Flustered, FEDE desperately kept trying to look for matches to continue in the competition, despite close yet upsetting losses that could potentially bring him out of the podium.
I still kept searching after losing to Wolf, and I stopped my stream, which is why my very last 5 games were not streamed at all, because I just stopped my stream after multiple times without finding an opponent and just kept searching off camera.
As the clock kept ticking and the night turning really late, FEDE decided to stop his stream because he wasn't sure if he would find anyone to play at this point. The air was still tense as his loss to Wolf had placed him at 10th on the ladder, but he still had 7 matches left to play. Fortunately, FEDE eventually found 5 matches that were against top players who were using an alternate name, which was quite common, but his finals match was something else, an old rival of FEDE's in the world of global challenges.
I cannot be sure about most of my other opponents who I played against, because literally everyone was playing with the anonymous trainer, but I know that my very last match, the match that just set me in first place and made me win the GC, was against Ubislow, who is the 2023 Japan national champion, and he is considered the best player in the world in best of 1 close team sheet. He's probably the strongest Battle Stadium ladder hero ever. It was a pretty tough opponent to face in the most important match, and I was sure it was him, even if he had the anonymous trainer, because it was his exact trainer card with his exact titles, his exact closes, his exact team, everything.
A fitting setting for the showdown that would decide the entire fate of the tournament. As Ubislow and FEDE fought, there was actually someone that FEDE didn't mention up until this point, who was actually his closest points competitor that was also playing his final match as well.
At some point, I had Suika, Joji Kaeda, who is another extremely good Japanese player, and usually me and him are considered the 2 best players in global challenges, because he won 4 global challenges, and win this one I won 3, so we are the 2 players with the most global challenges win. And at some point I saw that Joji was 0.1 points behind me. I will just send you the screenshot of that. I was just like, oh, Joji's coming.
The pressure for FEDE was at an all-time high, facing off against the world's best player in the format while his closest rival is playing his final match at the same time. There was no way to tell who's going to win, so this time our spider hero made sure to not pull any punches. Remember how earlier in the video we talked about the importance of preparation and how a good analysis on the metagame can often decide the fate of an event? Well, Ubislow brought a popular Sableye Rain team to the final showdown for all the marbles. It was FEDE's time to show that he did his homework with the spicy Ariados pick. So, how did it go?
Basically, he was playing that Sableye Rain team, and Ariados carried this last match. I cooked him with the Protect knockoff play I mentioned on the Basque Legion in Turn 1, and just started spamming Rage Powder Hyper Voice right after, and this was my last match.
Spice was most definitely a key ingredient in FEDE's ability to cook. There was one more step in the way, though, that FEDE actually couldn't control. How did Joji's match go? Did FEDE just beat the best in the world for absolutely nothing? Well, the news hit.
I was very scared in this moment. I was just sitting here until 4 a.m., keep refreshing the page to see if someone would pass me. But yeah, basically, that was the situation when the rankings closed. But actually, he played his last game and lost it. But yeah, I was not even 0.1 points above him.
And with that, Federico Camporesi became the first Pokemon Champions Global Challenge champion, using a Pokemon that absolutely no one believed in. But he saw beyond sight and felt the opportunity to bring Ariados to glory. And as promised, what can we learn from FEDE's run? Well, there are 4 key takeaways. 1. Preparation is definitely key. Always study before an event and try to understand the metagame so you can understand your team better. We threw in a lot of Spider-Man analogies, but players should strive to be more of a Batman with prep time. 2. Consider all of your options. A thorough analysis allowed FEDE to choose Ariados as the best fit for his strategy, and it paid off. A lot of players disregard weaker Pokemon without considering what they can uniquely accomplish. 3. A loss is just a loss. Move on. In competitive gaming, players tend to give up, rage, or even shake their mental game after a loss, but losses are human and a part of success. Rather than feel sorry, it is important to take a break if needed or make adaptations. This factor was key in Camporesi's tournament run. 4. Have fun. To the team at FSG, it was abundantly clear how Camporesi enjoys competitive Pokemon and how his love and passion for the game pushed him to keep playing and eventually to win it all. And thank you so much to our Platinum patrons. Thank you to Alex Sable, Spavoon, King Yabber, Megamon VGC, Nurse Jake, Dr. Mint, Tyler, Schmooter, Palamute, Wardine, Nightfall, Kaboflu, Sojiro Sakura, Chlormin, Don Creek, Espeon Lover, Mojo Game Slayer, Eric Dissing, One Penguin to Rule, Zathor, Seagulls Incorporated, Anthony Belval Renault, Daniel Is Beast, Funky, Glitcherton, Howl, Jack G, Pretzel SP, Soares and Croxon, Shiwei Miji, Skylaria, and Stoneface Colin for their major support of our videos.